Hey, good morning, everybody. It is 11-ish, and this is Chattin with CHAP, and I am your host, Ginger Wade. So today we're going to be talking about secondary requirements. There's always a little bit of confusion with the law and what the law means and what's in the law, so we're going to talk about it today. We're going to get down into the nitty-gritty and figure out what it is that it says. Before we do that, I wanted to say to you that, hey, registration is open for the 2024 convention. So today is March 19th. Registration opened on the 15th, early bird registration, and early bird registration will last until the 31st. Now, what does early bird registration mean, you might be asking? Well, that means that you get a discounted price. So when you register now, you get a discounted price. And there's going to be a lot of videos and announcements and stuff coming out over the coming weeks about convention, and Ro's resource room is going to do a lot of interviews with the people who will be speaking at the convention. So we're really excited about that. So we get to know our speakers a little bit before we even get to convention. conv.chaponline.com is the convention website if you want to check out more about it. That is where you go to learn things. And of course, you can always inbox us here. You can always send us a message via our contact form or comments on videos that we have, anything like that. We'd love to hear from you if you have questions. So convention is coming and it's going to be wonderful. It's always wonderful to be together and to learn together. So, okay, let's get into our topic, secondary requirements. So I have a note for myself here of many things to read to you today. But the note I wrote down, I wanted to say secondary, it's just the next step. Everyone gets excited about secondary, like, oh, I can do elementary. So for some reason we think elementary is this easy peasy thing and whatever, but secondary, oh my goodness, I couldn't possibly do secondary school. That's high school. That's scary. There's no magical, all of a sudden, it's incredibly harder, right? In secondary, it's just the next step. You just keep growing. I mean, honestly, if you think about it, teaching someone to reading is so fundamental and so important. Isn't that as challenging as whatever? I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. So I'm just thinking you can do the next step. You can just keep growing with your child. And you know what? If you do not have a very successful or solid secondary education, you're not feeling confident in that, do not worry, because you can, first of all, you can grow with your kids and you can learn with your kids. And there is support out there. There's folks out there to support. There's co-ops, and I'll get into a little bit more of that as I continue on with our topic today. But anyway, secondary, we're just moving right along out of elementary school. So let's get into it. You'll see the link today is to homeschoolpennsylvania.org. That is where we have our law database. It has the law right there in print. You can read it. We break it out into pieces. We have little explainer videos explaining all the parts and stuff. It's a really great resource. I encourage you to go out there and read the law. But let's read from the law, the secondary portion. So it says at the secondary school level, and people might be asking, what is that? What's the secondary school level? Well, that's 7th through 12th grade, or roughly 12 through 18, something like that. So this is what secondary is. It actually includes what we call junior high, what I call junior high or middle school or whatever it is that they call it right now. So at the secondary school level, the following courses shall be taught. English, to include language, literature, speech, and composition. Science, geography, social studies, to include civics, world history, history of the United States and Pennsylvania. Mathematics, to include general mathematics, algebra, and geometry. Art, music, physical education, health, and safety education, including the regular and continuous instruction in the dangers and prevention of fires. Such courses of study may include, at the discretion of the supervisor of the home education program, economics, biology, chemistry, foreign languages, trigonometry, or other age-appropriate courses as contained in Chapter 5, which is the curriculum requirements of the State Board of Education. So you can check out the State Board of Education to see what it says about all those particular little subjects if you would like to. That is certainly somewhere that you can dive into it a little further. And then let me read the bottom part too. I didn't read the bottom part. So that was the generic paragraph. And then it says the following minimum courses in grades 9 through 12, specifically 9 through 12, are established as a requirement for graduation in a home education program. 4 years of English, 3 years of math, 3 years of science, 3 years of social studies, and 2 years of arts and humanities. So let's talk about this a little bit, break it down a little bit. What does it mean when some of it is for 9 through 12, but then secondary 7 through 12, and how does that all work together? Like, what do I need to do? What are the requirements for my kid to graduate as a homeschool student? So, as I said before, secondary 7 through 12, it's roughly ages 12 through 18. But again, as the supervisor, you are the one who's deciding when your child is ready for that secondary level. You do not have to be 12 going into 7th grade or whatever. It's when your child is ready to be moving into those upper level classes, you are making that decision for them or with them in what is appropriate. I know plenty of people who have, you call it holding back, because that's what we call it in public school, held their kids back, say in 8th grade before moving into 9th grade, because they just weren't ready. They either needed more time to mature, they needed more character training, they weren't ready for older concepts, so they just kept working on what was, where they were at, right? It's just the next step. They were just working through to the next thing. And the moms that I've talked to that have done that, it was really great for their kids. Some kids just are not ready to move on. Some kids are not ready to graduate early or on time. All these terms that just go with public school system, government school systems, or even private school systems, where it really doesn't align with true education. So you do what your child needs. If your child needs more time at home with you, you give it to them. So anyway, there's my little thing about the ages. So the first section was general information, right? We read about the general requirements. I wanted to make sure to point out to you that they did not talk about specifically when in the 7th through 12th grade time span these things were to be covered, because the 9th through 12th grade thing talks about 3 years of math, 3 years of science, 3 years of social studies, but it doesn't say, okay, so one of those years should be American history, and one of those years should be Pennsylvania history, and one of those years should be civics, and one of those years should be world history. It doesn't say that. It says in the general paragraph, it says you are supposed to be covering some world history and some civics, history of the U.S. and Pennsylvania, but it doesn't say, okay, so in 9th grade you do this, in 10th grade you do this. And there is a typical flow that happens in the government school system that we kind of think, oh, well, we do this because this is what I did, but it's not saying that. You're supposed to do 3 years, and guess what, supervisor? You get to decide what a year is. Is it a book? Is it a certain number of time? Is it a certain number of books that you read or something? You get to decide what it is that a year constitutes. Now, in other places, you hear the word credit. Oh, it's a credit course. Some people say that a full credit is 120 hours and half credit is 60 hours. Again, there's nothing in here that says a credit is this and a year is this and that. It's something you need to decide as the supervisor, what it is that your child should learn. What are the values in your household that you want your child to be aware of? Is there a certain type of history that you want your child to be really aware of? Are they really interested in a certain thing and they spend all 3 of their years studying this particular era in depth because they love it? As long as you are covering some of these other subjects for a certain amount of an amount of time. I can't even say a certain amount of time. It's an amount of time. So somewhere between 7th and 12th grade, you need to be hitting some civics. You need to be hitting some world history. You need to be hitting some Pennsylvania history. Government, so important. Economics, I believe economics is very valuable too. But again, it's your values. What do you want your kids to learn? In our co-op, a lot of times we do civics in junior high. Check, we did it in junior high because the kids don't want to study it in senior high, or they think they need to do world history, American history, and government in high school, which is kind of civics, they kind of go together. So there are times when you're covering the same subject multiple times or whatever. But again, that's up to you. You can do that. I have a daughter who's studying the Dutch this year. She wanted to know more about the Dutch. She's learning the Dutch language and wanted to know more about them. And she wanted to know more about the Civil War. So she just put those two things together. We found some books. She found some books and she's working through them. And that is her history. It's like this made just for her, according to her interests kind of a thing. So as you're working through these generic requirements, it's just like elementary school. Remember how we talked about elementary before? And you're like, oh, you don't have to do every single subject every single year. And as long as you cover it at some point in time in the span of those years. Well, guess what? That's exactly what secondary is. Now, you might want to do a little bit more planning based on what would be available to your senior high student, or if they want to dual enroll, or if they participate in a co-op, and what type of classes would be offered at your co-op. Sarah just wrote in and asked, would teaching about Christianity and Bible be civics? If not, what would you call it? Actually, I believe if you're doing biblical worldview, like we have a biblical worldview at our co-op this year, that's actually a humanity. So if it doesn't fit as an English, a math, a science, or a social study, it's a humanity, and that's like a huge category. So you don't have to study a foreign language to cover the humanities requirement. Sarah, biblical worldview would be a humanities. Now, if it was church history, we did do a church history course once. That would be considered a history class. So it depends what you're doing with that. But yeah, biblical worldview is great. And honestly, Sarah, I think it's super important. Our kids need to understand their worldview and how to interact with the world and what's out there in the world that's not of a biblical worldview. So I think that's a very valuable humanity to have, but it does not count as a history requirement. So thanks for that question. That's very good. So yeah, other things that we would do, say at our co-op, we would do geography and actually have a geography class in, you're welcome, a geography class in junior high. But again, you don't have to have a semester class of geography to complete that component. If you're studying history over those years and you put a map on the wall and say, this is, like my daughter's doing the Netherlands, this is where the Netherlands are, this is where the Civil War was fought, these are the battlefields, this is the whatever. If you're using a visual to help you understand the history that you're reading or studying, that's geography, that's valuable. One of the fun things my husband did with my little ones, which could totally work with older kids if they enjoy this type of thing, is we had a blow-up globe and we would throw it at each other and yell at a country out, just any old country out, and you had to find it real quick. And then you pick another one and throw it to someone else and they have to find it real quick. So that's a great way to do some geography stuff. That's kind of fun. It makes it, if you enjoy being competitive, it's a fun thing to do, but it gets things to stick into your head too. And of course, there's tons of online ways to do geography, but again, you don't have to do a full course in it. Many subjects overlap. History and English. Oh my goodness. History, English, geography. Like if you do a speech for English class on a history subject and you've got your map and you're explaining the Civil War stuff, and you're writing your paper and you're outlining your speech and all that stuff, that is absolutely English. But it counts as history too. So that's the cool thing. So you don't need all these separate courses and all these in the box subjects to be able to fulfill these requirements. So we really need to be thinking about that, because so many, at least how we grew up now, things are changing in the high school, and I actually don't really know how they function necessarily with their different types of scheduling. But for us, it was English class, social studies class, or history class, math class, science class, and they didn't bleed together at all. But goodness, if you're studying scientists for science, That's history, and you could write a report about scientists, so you're doing some English, and then maybe you do a map of where all these scientists live and when they, or maybe a timeline of when they did their discoveries or whatever. Wow, like that's the full package, right? So you're hitting all of the subjects, and honestly, you can make this fit grade levels. So if it's junior high, you expect a paragraph or so, or a short 3-page paper or something like that. If it's a senior high student, maybe you're requiring a little bit more in-depth research, or asking them to do some note cards and group topics, like, however you're laying it out with your outlining and all that stuff. You get all those pieces into it. You can easily take that and make it into a senior high level project. So as we're looking through, I want to look here again into the requirements. I know mathematics always gets everyone concerned, but it says here in secondary level, it's general math, algebra, and geometry. So it doesn't say algebra 2, and it doesn't say trig, and it doesn't say calc. If you are headed towards college, it's wise to go that direction. It's wise to keep plugging through those math courses. If not, or you can go to college and not have calc 2. It's not like you have to have calc also, not calc 2. But it doesn't say you have to have algebra 2. It does say you need to have some algebra and you need to have some geometry. Now, if your child does well with those things, it's not going to help them to say, oh, you did 2 weeks of geometry, that's enough. No, if they're good at it, they should practice it and move forward and keep going with their math, right? We want to, encourage academic excellence. But if they struggle, take the time and let them have as much time in it to understand as they need, because these descriptions are loose. Again, you decide how much is enough. Sometimes an Algebra 1 book takes them 1.5 to 2 years to complete. Well, that's okay. That's 2 years of math, right? Because they're working on it. They're progressing. So don't get caught up in, we got to finish the book. If they're not understanding it and you're rushing through it and you're all of a sudden finishing the book, but they have no idea what they learned, it didn't do them any good. So it's important to release those shackles and let your kids learn at the speed that they need. Now, if they're fast and they go through 2 books a year, well, then just keep going to what's the next thing? What's the next level of math? Or how can we look at this in a different way, in a different style? Or can we meet math professors at the local college or something? I had a math professor. He was very unique, and he loved fractals. I think it was fractals. There's really funky designs and stuff, and he had fractal t-shirts and stuff. So if you have a child who's way into math and would love fractals, take him to the prof like that, at the college, and hey, let's do this fun, cool fractal thing. I don't know. Just saying. I'm just going off on a rabbit trail there, but you have the freedom to do this kind of stuff. So again, with a 9th through 12th grade section, 4 years of English, 3 years of math, science, social studies, 2 years of arts and humanities. So you decide how much that year's worth of work is. This is specific for 9th through 12th grade. So this would not include junior high work, and this is the stuff that's put on the transcript. Okay, you're assigning the credit value, what you believe the work was worth. So I do a drama class every year. I give that half a credit because we run it for half a year. If it's an English class that's being given at a co-op and it lasts all year long, I give it a whole credit. If my kids take a dual enrollment class at a college, and it's really only 1 semester, but it's college level, I still give it a credit, because the college level course is supposed to be equivalent to a full year of a high school course. That's what it was when I was going through school. Maybe the standards have changed since then, but typically your 1 semester course in college is the equivalent to a full year high school course. So that's how you would handle it on a transcript. So if you are dual enrolling as a junior and you take a lit class in the fall and a speech class in the spring, guess what? You just did 2 Englishes and you could probably graduate right then and there. But again, talking with my other shows, is it wise to graduate? Is your child ready to graduate? Is there other things that they could look into at a co-op or a college dual enrolling that would be cheaper to do as a high school student? Things they might want to look into, topics of interest for them. Those are all things you need to be thinking about also as you're completing these requirements. So again, something I wanted to talk about with the sciences. Everyone thinks you have to have like earth science, biology, chemistry, and then physics if you're super smart. So that's not the case. It says at the discretion of the supervisor of the home education, you could do biology, chemistry, and those things, but it's totally up to you. So if your student is way into electronics, let them learn electronics, or if they're, it's marine biology or not, whatever. It doesn't have to be these courses. And something that I had heard years ago, which I thought was fascinating and so very interesting, is that we actually do in the public school system, we teach the math, the sciences backwards. So it would be better, easier to understand and do the things in our science courses if we actually taught the physics first and then taught the chemistry and then taught the biology. Interesting food for thought. You might want to look that up and see what you think about that. So there are, Apologia puts out a physics course for younger students. So you could start, we all think, oh, physics, that's the whatever. So just, break out of the box, break out of the mold. Don't be afraid to do things a little bit differently. So, yeah. So let's see here. If you are looking to plan out your students, 7th through 12th grade, what should we be learning? What should we be doing? My thought is just to think about what you would like included on the transcript, maybe, or what your children, do you think they think they're going to go to college? Do you think they're going to go to trade school? Having a transcript for senior high courses is valuable, even if your student doesn't think they're going to go to college, because so many people, years after they graduate, get a different job or decide, I do want to go back to school. And homeschoolers, like, you need to have a transcript. Some people ask for a diploma, but it's really more often the transcript. So think about what you would like to have on that transcript. Now, many kids will take, say, Algebra 1 in 8th grade, and then Geometry in 9th grade, and Algebra 2 in 10th grade, and trigonometry, or maybe they'll do a consumer math later. So, people say, well, what do I do with that Algebra 1? Can I put it on the transcript? And like, well, you can list that it was done, but you don't count credits in the GPA, because the GPA only goes from 9 through 12. This is where you calculate the GPA. So in that case, maybe you want to wait until 9th grade to do Algebra 1 so you can count it on the transcript. I mean, it's just, but you have to take your child into account. If your child is ready for math, don't hold them back just so you can put it on a transcript, because they're going to keep going and you're not going to have a problem getting it on your transcript. Okay? Some kids aren't quite ready for upper level math. Maybe it's better to do a consumer math in 8th grade so they understand. And that is so valuable too. Dave Ramsey, or just the stewardship course by Matthew C. Anything basic where they start, and maybe 8th grade is too young because they're not thinking about, I want to buy a car and I want to get a job and maybe that's better for the older student. My junior is doing that right now. It's just so they understand money and how to work with money and how to be responsible. So those things are valuable too. Don't forget, it's not listed in the law anywhere, but don't forget those valuable tools for your student as they get older. So it doesn't hurt to sit down, maybe chart some stuff out. What are you interested in studying? So you have maybe a basic idea, or if you are part of a co-op and this is the general flow of the co-op, and we can kind of expect these types of things to be offered at the co-op in the coming years. Or if you want to do some dual enrolling, or if there's a particular college you want to go to, you reach out to them and say, hey, what should my student be taking now to prepare for entering into your college? Then that will help you make that planning for the senior high years. So in all of this, so the 7th through 12th secondary thing, you can cover all these particular topics that are listed in that paragraph in the law. But some of that obviously is also covered in the 9th through 12th and gets put in the transcript. But it doesn't all have to get put on the transcript. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to do a geography course or health. Health is another one. We do health in junior high in our co-op. So we've done health. We do a physical, mental, spiritual, emotional health, like the full person health. I think it's great. So obviously, like physical changes and as you're growing up, that's a conversation you need to be having with your kids before they get to be 13, parents out there. So don't wait for junior high health class for that one. But yeah, so we typically don't wait until senior high to do that. We do a class in it because there's a lot of things you can talk about in regards to health, or do it at home. But either way, it's something you can cover in the junior high years. So let's talk about the transcript for a few minutes. If you have any other questions about the law itself and where things fit in, comment below or send a message in to me. I'm happy to answer your questions. But I want to move on and talk a little bit about transcripts and this idea of transcripts and stuff. So at homeschoolpennsylvania.org, which is on the screen there for you, there's a transcript generator. It is super handy. You just put in the title of the course and the grade, the letter grade that you gave your child, and it'll automatically generate the GPA for you, do all the number crunching and all that stuff, so you don't have to worry about it. So, like I said, you can list courses taken in junior high if you think it will be valuable to your child moving forward, depending where they want to go to school. But you do not give credit for junior high courses. It would just be like for letting someone know that you did this particular thing. If there's a particular type of study that your child wants to go into where that would be valuable, that would be a case where you would do that. So if you personally are not comfortable teaching at the upper level, there's dual enrollment courses, there's co-op classes out there. They can go to a local school for dual enrollment, or you can do dual enrollment pretty much online anywhere these days. So you don't have to be afraid of the senior high course. If you want to learn with them, absolutely learn it together and go through it together. But there are many, many options there. You can also find a tutor. So don't take those senior high years where you poured into your kids for years and years and years in elementary, and you get to senior high and go, oh my goodness, I'm too scared. Off you go to school somewhere. Because that's when you're going to see the fruit of all the time you've spent pouring into your kids. You're going to see them making different choices on their own and their growth and their responsibility and all that. You want them home so you can see the fruit of your labor, your hard labor. So I just encourage you to keep your kids at home and walk through this senior high season with them. And you know what? We are going to be having some great sessions at convention on this. Barb Bideman's going to be talking about the nuts and bolts of high school and some guidance counseling, helping you make some of those decisions moving forward. She's going to be helping with that. And we're going to have a lot of courses on college credits at home. And so you can get a lot of help there with your senior high planning at the convention. So just put that little plug in there. So talking about transcripts, a lot of people say, oh, my evaluator does a transcript. That's great. If that's a service your evaluator wants to do, that's perfectly fine. They can generate that transcript for you, but they don't have to. If you use our transcript generator, it's really easy. And here's the trick about the evaluator doing it. You need to make sure that you have all those records at home. Don't count on your evaluator to keep them for you in perpetuity, because it's not their responsibility. It's your responsibility as the supervisor to make sure that you have your child's records on file at home. I've had people come to me and ask me to get the evaluator to give them records, and that you can't do that. It's not even the evaluator's responsibility to do those records for you. It might be a service that they do for you because they're being nice, but it's your responsibility to keep them on hand. So if you have the evaluator do it, that's fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but you better make sure that you have all those records at home yourself, because it's actually not the evaluator's responsibility. They're checking for compliance and making sure you've done the requirements. If you're doing the parents' diploma, they sign it. They do sign it, because when they're signing it, they're saying, yeah, you've completed all the requirements. So in that way, if you're using the PDE diploma that we have out on Homeschool Pennsylvania, you do need their signature on there, but it's just pretty much saying, hey, you've complied and you've fulfilled all the requirements. It's great. It's not saying, oh yeah, my evaluator is going to keep my transcript for me forever. That's not what that's saying. So you can do your own diploma at home, like off of Microsoft Publisher or whatever, and not have the evaluator sign it, and that's fine. That works. HSLDA suggests using the PDE version with the evaluator signature. it might have more pull because it has the PDE, the Pennsylvania Department of Education stamp on it. That is kind of where we're going with that. If you have a child who is special education, does a lot of volunteering to meet requirements and stuff like that, those types of things, you can feel free to list on the transcript for those children. So if you have children who just, I wouldn't just stuff your transcript full of stuff. Like, you don't need to feel like you need to stuff all kinds of stuff on your transcript and make it really big and full. If you do a lot of different, unique learning to help your child meet the requirements, like I said, volunteering or working a job, or if there's some special situation, you can list those things on the transcript. This is what I've come to understand from some evaluator friends of mine. But I wouldn't say that it's necessary to pad or stuff your transcript to, oh, look at all the things I did. That's kind of what you do when you have the interview with your college. Oh, I'm this volunteer. And colleges ask those questions. They have questionnaires. And they say, oh, what are the things that you're involved with? Well, I do this. You know, that's where that comes from. You don't have to list it on the transcript. So just put that in there on the side if any of you are wondering for your children with special needs how the graduation requirements works. Let's see here. Okay, so I talked about Barb's class, and you know what? I think you can totally do this. And as long as you think about senior high as being junior high, it's just the next step from elementary. You just keep going and keep, and get support. If you're concerned about doing it well, get support from a co-op, get support from a tutor, get support from an online class. There's ways to get the support you need to be able to continue on, but you're going to want to have your kids home so you can see the fruits of your labors in these later years. I mean, really? Come on, don't you? Yeah, I think so. Okay, so junior and senior high, you can walk through with your kids, and you know what? Like I said earlier, sometimes the more important thing really is the character building and getting them prepared to function well on their own. When you're walking with Christ, when you're learning to submit to Him, when you're getting built up, then striving for academic excellence, I think, goes better, right? So when we can tackle our work, with vigor, or just have good character in meeting challenges and being able to persevere through difficult situations, when we're learning how to do those things first and foremost, then striving for academic excellence and doing the classes, it's easy. I want to say it's easier to do it, but it seems more accomplishable when you have the character foundation of perseverance and endurance and all those good character qualities. So don't forget the importance of that character foundation. Of course, we start that when they're really young and keep building on it. And the issue, you don't run out of issues. There's still issues, but you're teaching them how to deal with them, these different issues, as they get older. So hopefully this was encouraging to you. Hopefully it explained a few things. Again, if you don't understand something, shoot me a question. I'm happy to answer your questions, or come to convention. We're going to be talking about this stuff, and then you'll be able to talk one-on-one with us there. If you would like to, there will be mentors at the chat booth this year. Like I said, Barb is talking about these on Thursday. It'll be on Thursday afternoon, and you can ask your questions there. But we're here for you to help you understand this whole thing of homeschool and what the requirements are and how to move forward with it. So again, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. And that's all I have for today. So next Tuesday, I think it might be Q&A day. I think it is. So if you have questions, write in and I'll answer them and I'll share them next week. So thanks for tuning in today. Be encouraged today. Enjoy this springtime. It's spring today. If you're near a Rita's, go get your free Rita's, or wherever else has free ice cream. Everybody has free ice cream these days. But anyway, enjoy your day, and we will see you next week. Okay. Bye now.